Greetings, gentlemen and ladies, Game Snob here. In today's video I'm going to be showing a few games of a deck I've been playing for fun. I haven't been playing too massively competitively. I've been playing for the fun, and as such been putting together some kind of unusual decks that you may not have really seen before. This is an Anubian deck, but it doesn't use the cheesy, lame-ass Anubian mechanics that you usually see when against playing Anubians. No, this is something quite different indeed, and so much fun. This deck I am dubbing the ultimate come from behinder. My last probably 10 games in a row have been come from behind. I mean, come from behind is like down to 2 health, 3 health, come from behind. Like, this is a crazy recovery deck. It's just so fun and wild to play. So let's break it down a little bit. Blight Bomb, and I have done a few variations of this deck, and it's pretty much the same, but this is my latest version of it that I'm kind of tinkering around with. Blight Bomb helps with that early game control, helps you from becoming too overwhelmed. Blood Armor, I've got just one of these in the deck. This is crazy effective when you pair it up in an early game Pyramid Warden. Drop Blood Armor and Pyramid Warden, and it's so hard for your opponent to do anything about that. Now, what we like to also do is we like to pair this Pyramid Warden, or basically any other Anubian card, with a couple of cards that I really like, and that is the Malaysian Magistrate. Now, this, of course, gives an Anubian of your choice the afterlife of return this creature to the board, basically as soon as it dies. So your Pyramid Warden, you drop down your Pyramid Warden, you give it Blood Armor. When it dies, maybe you drop this down on your Pyramid Warden, it comes right back. Or you drop it down on any of your other Anubians, and they come right back. The other card that I just picked up, which really pairs crazily with the Malaysian Magistrate, is the Reborn Pharaoh. Very much similar to the Malaysian Magistrate in most respects. Give a random other Anubian afterlife, pull this creature from the void into your hand, right? So you could possibly, and I've done this a bunch of times, drop down this on some, let's say my Pyramid Warden, drop down the Reborn Pharaoh on my Malaysian Magistrate, bring it back into my hand, play it again, play it over and over and over. They just keep bringing each other back. Oh, this Anubian deck is so fun and funny to play if you're playing it. Fun for player, not for playee, the playee being your opponent. Another really fun one here, another two. Now, some of these are kind of like I say, you rarely see them. Genesis cards, not too expensive, but you rarely see them because they don't make sense in a lot of decks. But and I have no idea how well this would hold out into the high ranks. Probably not too well. I'm right around Auric Gold, just in Auric Gold level. And it's doing pretty well at this level. Sometimes you encounter newer players with inexpensive decks. Sometimes you encounter old school players with Genesis cards and decked out boards. So it kind of ranges when you're at Auric Gold. And I really make no claims on how well this holds out into the higher ranks. Like I say, I'm playing for the fun, and for the just for the fun of the crazy things that can happen. So Sarcophagus is really interesting in this deck particular, because there's so many things that you have coming back from the dead, and we haven't even broken it all down yet. But we've got Sarcophagus, which once it dies, it summons a random Anubian from your void. So that could be Malaysian Magistrate, Reborn Pharaoh. It could be any number of the additional Anubians that we're going to talk about in a minute, because this deck is just, I'm just getting into how fun this deck is to play. It could be any one of those. It could also be paired so nicely with Spirit Storm. This is a whatever the name of this deck is. What's the Christmas one? I forget. Trigger the afterlife of each friendly creature, right? So in turn 4, you could drop that down, 4 mana, drop that down, trigger the afterlife of it, bring a creature back. It's still going to burn up. It's still going to get its another use. If you also want to, you can drop down something like Malaysian Magistrate, also on Sarcophagus again, so it comes back again. It just keeps resurrecting and resurrecting. Oh my gosh, it gets so fun and funny. Another really great card for this deck. This card is so good. Um, Asenath, Han of the Pharaohs. So this is summon a 1-mana Anubian from your void and give it deadly. So a 4-mana 4/4 big solid body on the board with backline, fairly difficult to remove. And the thing is, I've only got one 1-mana creature and 1-mana Anubian. So basically, I want to get this card at some point. Before I play this, I want this. I want to put it into the void, and I want to keep bringing it back. The reason I want this is because of Blitz. The Blitz pairs so amazingly well with this on the board. A Blitz deadly creature is just crazy. Every turn a Blitz deadly creature. This has taken out Cyclopean Warriors. It's taken out 8 mana drops. It's just, it takes out whatever's on the board that doesn't have armor, when not much has 2 armor, right? So crazy pairing these two. They work so good together. Frost Queen Neferu is actually a new addition. She's actually extremely, she's mean. She's a mean card. Every time your opponent plays their first card, uses their god power, draws a card, or uses their relic, their god takes 2 damage. So they're basically guaranteed to take 4 damage and possibly more each time they get a turn with Neferu, Frost Queen Neferu on the board. That also being said, if you want to also drop a Malaysian Magistrate or a Reborn Pharaoh and keep using this really mean Neferu, yeah, you can do that. Worst case scenario, she's a 4/4 on the board. Best case scenario at 4 mana is like a 4/5 with no text and no downside, right? So solid big body on the board with some crazy reach. Big Bony Bastard, I've just got one of these. They're kind of fun and interesting, and they are a part of the mid to late game, which is where this deck really shines. Big Bony Bastard. Now they can come down with some good stuff. They can also come down with that Pharaoh's Heirloom, which also gives you another Vile Reaver. So if you haven't found your Vile Reaver, but you've got your, your Asenath, then you can potentially get your blitzy deadly creature from your Big Bony Bastard. Anyway, it's just a nice 5-mana drop at 5/5 body, worst case scenario, with some sort of buff. So that's always good. Deathwatch Curate, also kind of an optional card, but what we want basically at this point are some big strong bodies on the board. Some slightly earlier than 6 curve bodies, some 5 curve bodies, big strong bodies on the board. And then we've got 1 Raised Dead, but what we've also got here is some more big bodies at 6. We've got some Corpse Swallowers. This thing is amazing for drawing cards. Every time an enemy creature dies, it just draws another card. You draw so many cards with Corpse Swallower. And again, you want more cards, drop in a Malaysian Magistrate on your Corpse Swallower, get it back for another turn. Or and this is where things really start to get fun and interesting, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Actually, no, let's skip right to it. Here's our super card. This is Takat the Forgotten. At the start of your turn and roar, summon the strongest creature from your void onto the board, and give it Soulless. And if it's an Anubian, also give it Blitz and Leech. So the strongest creature typically always is going to be either your Big Bony Bastard, your Deathwatch Curate, your Corpse Swallower, or what we also have is, where is she? Where is she? Why? Oh, here we go. Yes, Nefertiti's Guardian. Also a nice, huge 6-mana frontline 5/6 with the afterlife of a friendly Anubian becomes protected and gets 1/1. So again, remember, we've also got Spirit Storm, so we can trigger afterlives if we want to. Give something else protected with 1/1, and maybe also summon up a dead creature in the same turn, right? You can do some crazy combos. So we have Nefertiti's, I don't know how to say that, Guardian, but I love her. This is the card that really starts to turn things around. She drops down at 6, and of course paired with Takat the Forgotten. So we're either bringing her back, we're bringing back one of these other big bodies with Blitz and Leech, and so they start. This is when our very low health starts to recover, starts to come back around. Neferu, also a super awesome Anubian board clear. We can bring her back several times potentially with these if we want to. If we don't want to take too much face, we can just keep bringing Neferu back. Also, we've got one Raised Dead in the deck. This is just sort of your ace in the hole, right? You lose your Takat when you really didn't want to. You lose something important and you didn't want to. You got your Raised Dead to bring it back, as if we didn't have enough things that bring things back. But this one brings back something specific, so that can be pretty good. We also have a Tomb Blade Master. This is an awesome card. This is just such a great hard card to get around. At 7 mana, you've got 4/5 and frontline, but you also have the afterlife of summon the strongest Anubian from your void and give it frontline. So again, remember, our strong Anubians, which we want to get into the void sometimes before we use all this stuff, is going to be one of these 5 or 6 drops. And so you have basically a very difficult front line to get around, because your opponent has to get around 2 front lines. Sometimes they could, what is it? A single spell insta-death kill of some variation, Ratify or whatever. Well, I guess Ratify would actually deal with this effectively. But, destroying 2 front lines is a lot harder than destroying just 1 front line, typically. The Strix Conscript is just a good early game card with armor, and again, Anubian, hits hard, deals with some lighter creatures. You can bring that back a bunch of times, and you just got a nice strong threat on the board. And then of course a Demogorgon. Now I don't know how well this deck would work without Demogorgon, because Demogorgon typically comes into place. Either Takat or Demogorgon. You want something like this around that turn 7 time. You want to start bringing the game back around into your favor around that time. So Demogorgons buy you a turn, they heal, they leech the next turn, they become such a big problem, and then you start dropping down other cards. If your opponent can't deal, you heal up some more, you drop down some of your Anubians that start resurrecting themselves over and over again, or Takat that just keeps summoning over and over again with Blitzy Leech. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. Let's jump into some games, and I'll show you how this works. Okay, let's kick one off here. Blood Ritual is such a good god power. It's amazing how often that 1 health destruction option comes up as being extremely swinging. Early game, I really want to find a Pyramid Warden and Blood Armor. Blight Bomb is great to have in hand. Vile Reaver is also one that I like to look for. The Malaysian Magistrate is good, but not if you don't have anything else in hand. So I decided to dig around a little bit more in this regard and check that out. That is probably the best possible combo of cards you could hope for at the start. Vile Reaver instead of Blight Bomb might be one possible alternative to that instead. You have to forgive me as I, while I'm waiting for my opponent's turn here, I'm doing a little bit of Unreal Engine development, just downloading a few assets from the asset store. So occasionally I'll quickly tab over to that. It doesn't happen too much though, so hopefully you can forgive the interruption. Anyway, so at this point, there's not actually a lot I can do. That warded creature is actually the perfect counter to my Blight Bomb. The God Power doesn't do anything. It doesn't do any damage unless the creature has 1 health, so I can't do anything with that. So I decide just to pass and eat 2 damage here. But that's okay, because now we can pip out a Pyramid Warden combined with a nice Blood Armor. Oh, early game Pyramid Warden with 1 armor is just so nice. I often don't like playing the Pyramid Warden because it gives back so much value to your opponent, potentially game swinging value, just crazy value. Like, you could give your opponent back like a huge creature with Pyramid Warden. But Pyramid Warden early game with Blood Armor, it becomes much more than worthwhile to take that line. It just becomes so difficult for your opponent to do anything about that warden with 1 armor. This Spring Bloom Blower, whatever her name is, at 4 health is unfortunately kind of an awkward use of mana here. The getting rid of that is not optimal, but the what is it, Pharaoh's Heirloom, I believe that one was called, does give me the option of now bringing my Pyramid Warden back into my hand when it dies. I don't know what that crinkling sound is. I don't remember what I was doing. We got some crinkling sound. So there's that Pyramid Warden back in hand. Of course, it does bring him back, his Spring Bloom or whatever her name is. He trades in, and I'm actually okay with that because it takes a little bit off the board. At this point, we've got a Sarcophagus and we've got a Pyramid Warden, which is kind of nice. It means that, once the Pyramid Warden dies, the Sarcophagus will be able to bring it back or something back. Yeah, I don't know what that clicking was. Now here's the Malaysian Magistrate, like I was telling you guys about before. Now this on the Pyramid Warden will bring it back immediately when it dies. Or I could potentially do something even kind of crazier and put this down on the Sarcophagus and have it bring something back when it dies the second time. Which means that once it burns up, it'll bring something back, and it will come back, and then it'll come burn up again and bring something else back. So it's just so silly, so silly and so fun, the shenanigans. And now this is perfect because my God Power for 1, and I have just enough mana to put this down on my Pyramid Warden, which is what I actually decided to do, I guess. Although I do also like the line of putting that down on the Sarcophagus. I think I didn't have, I can't remember if I had something, not enough in my Void at this point to put it down on the Sarcophagus. I think that was the situation in that regard. Otherwise, I think I would have put it on the Sarcophagus. What's her name? Thuriel or Tyrael or Theriel? She's a scary kitty. Definitely need to remove her from the board as quick as possible, or else she basically will take the game away from you in 1 turn by doubling something's health up so big and so strong. What are you even going to do with it? So the Malaysian Magistrate and the Pharaoh's, whatever his name is, are able to trade into, oh, Gabrielle, that's right, into Gabrielle, remove her from the board, which is just absolutely necessary. At this point, I'm considering either the Spring Bloom or possibly my pipping into Nephrites, I forget her name, which seemed like a good line to me because, well, big 5/6 body on board with a very nice afterlife to buff up my Pyramid Warden potentially, because if my Pyramid Warden dies here, he comes back into my hand or immediately onto the board. I forget which one I did there, but I get him back immediately. Now the big green giant is kind of a scary big body on the board at this point. But there's the Pyramid Warden back immediately. And for his troubles, he gets back his Amazon, which is not too bad, not too scary. 1/3. So I'm checking out the line here. What's gonna work best? And actually what I decide I like here is to sack Nephrol, whatever her name is, give my Warden protected and +1/+1, use him to take out the green giant, and looking pretty good board presence here. 3-7 and a nice little 4-2 with 1 armor. Owly boy. That Moonlight Charm, though, really spirals cards out of control. Another nice card for this deck, which I may want to put back in, is the what is it? 3 mana, 3/3. Remove 2 durability from relic. I should know this one. It's totally on the tip of my tongue. The hunt here is really unfortunate. Now, this is where things start to look really dismal. We've got a big green overkill giant, a 3/6 regenning, 3/4 regenning. Luckily, we do draw Neferu here, which does give us at least something. We could potentially get a body on the board, clear out a little bit. It's still really awkward. Eyeing up the bowl, I have a little bug in my screen resolution, so I keep clicking the Sanctum instead of the Void. They're kind of overlapping. That's my screen resolution, but not a game glitch. It's my own thing. Green Giant takes out Neferu, and we are not at 15 health, so we will not get Neferu back in the traditional way. However, there are many ways to get Neferu back. Now things are looking extremely scary. 15 health to 25. He's got a 6 attack regenning creature, Vow of Champions, Big Green Giant, and Guild Enforcer, Frontline, all on the board. Things are looking really scary at this point. That being said, I do have one line appear in hand. I also have another line appear in hand, and that is the one I decided to take. That is, maybe looking back I might have gone with something a little bit different, but this also works. This puts some board presence down. In retrospect, I might have done something a little differently, but I do end up doing that, I think, on the next turn, so I'm not going to spoil it. Tukhot, really, I think one of my very favorite cards in the game. In an Anubian deck like this, she's just so fun, so great. My opponent seems to know that Tukhot cannot be allowed to survive, and deals with her, which is a very good heads-up play. And he also kills her first, which is the correct move, because otherwise Neferis would have buffed Tukhot with Protected, and she would have been much more difficult to take out. Now things are starting to look kind of gruesome. He's got a 7 and he's got some huge attack creatures on the board. Managarmr also coming down on the board, and things are just kinda. What do I do here? What would you guys do? What would you guys do? I do have one option that is very risky, but it's literally my only play, and that is to trigger the Roar of Neferu, do 3 damage to everything on the board, and that puts me into a position where I can then God Power Managarmr and actually take back board control for this turn anyway, with only 5 health left, which is kinda scary, kinda just a little bit horrifying, really. And Achilles comes down on the board. Now, respects, of course, to my opponent, who was actually getting some great draws, but was definitely not using an expensive deck. And I definitely appreciate the gameplay of my opponent in this game. But the thing about nature decks is that some of the best ones actually are some of the least expensive ones. So aggro nature can be very difficult to deal with, especially with a sort of a deck that, like I say, this deck is a heck of a lot of fun to play. because it can do some crazy fun things. Is it the toppest, rankest, most mythicest, deckist that you will ever play? I don't know. I've barely gotten into Auric Gold, and I'm working my way up. My last, my win ratio at the moment is about 80%, which is pretty good, but not in the higher ranks. So I don't know how this deck will hold up. It's very experimental and super fun, and honestly these days, guys, I'm playing this game kind of for the memes, kind of for the fun. Just, it's, I don't want to take things too seriously, get too aggro, get too frustrated about losing or not, not having the best deck or getting bad luck. It just takes away the fun for me. So these days I just like to play for fun and do some wild things with some decks. Now Demogorgon is very, very much what we wanted to see here. And I did get some I have now gotten 3 extremely lucky top decks in a row. Demogorgon goes down, and that is going to start healing and buy me some time, which is good because we were down to our very last few ticks of health. But as you guys can see, this is a very strong recovery deck. This is even the best example of how well this deck is able to recover when it wants to. We'll do some more games after this. I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys a bunch of games. You know what? I love to sit back and watch games be played. I find it so interesting because you just never really know what's going to happen, right? So I'm gonna make you guys a bunch. I'm gonna put up a bunch of videos I've been recording over the last few days. We'll do a few more after this. You guys can see some of the crazy games that this deck it can have. It's just a lot of fun. So at this point, I'm going to run my Demogorgon into his card, and now I've got my Neferu with her again back in hand. Again, here she's back again, man. She just keeps coming back, and there's so many cards in this deck that just keep coming back. So now I've got board presence again, and I'm starting to heal back from an extremely dire situation. Honestly, I was, curious to see how this one would play out, but I think at this point, my opponent got frustrated and decided that was that. Good game. Okay, let's jump into the next one. In this one, I've actually got one card, the Hunger Demon, which I didn't talk about earlier on in this video. And that is because I removed this card from my deck. I was playing around with it a little bit, just because it had such an interesting combo, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But its downside is that it wasn't an Anubian, it was a Nether card. If it was an Anubian, I would absolutely keep this in my deck. I might put it back. It's worthy. It's one that you probably may have never even played against. It's a very interesting Genesis card. Anyway, we were playing up against Viking Aggro War. Very fast, very effective deck. You come up against again a very common, good performing deck that you'll come up against a lot of times playing Gods Unchained. Very effective and very fast. You really have to deal with a lot of early game damage that's gonna be coming down at you. Now, one good way to deal with that early game damage is, of course, to throw down a big Pyramid Warden that immediately revives itself when it dies. That's a very effective counter to a lot of War's early game, hard hitting but not very healthy, not very good health creatures. So you'll see that a lot with War. They make a 3-1 attack or a 4-2 attack and that sort of thing. So a Pyramid Warden is actually a very good counter for a lot of War cards. And yeah, like I say, a Pyramid Warden that immediately resurrects is even better, twice as good, you could say. So at this point, I wanted to show you guys some fun shenanigans because we've got the sarcophagus in hand. What we don't have necessarily is something good in the void to bring back. So first I go and I kill something in the void to bring back, and I just wanted to play this. I don't even know if it was the best play, but basically what happens is this card destroys another creature, and then takes its strength and health and adds it to its own. So it becomes a 3/9. And since it destroyed the sarcophagus, it triggered its afterlife of bringing something back. Like that's a very good combo. Like I say, I might have to add this card back into my deck because that's just such a good combo. But the thing is, yeah, like I say, it's not Anubian, it's Nether, and Nether doesn't synergize with so many of the Anubian abilities, which just need the tribe to be Anubian for them to work. So yeah, it's a little bit of a awkward card, let's say. The Blitzy Orc is good here, but again, there's that Pyramid Warden right back. Enrage, sort of an interesting choice because his Blitzy Orc dies. Not exactly sure. Maybe he was hoping to get it back from the dead Pyramid Warden. That could have been the line he was thinking, which is actually a pretty good line. That's probably you know, he had a good chance. Like if he had got that back, it would have been very game swinging. So here off, we just take out the Brawler with our huge 3/9 stat 3 mana cost card. And we toss down, oh, what is his name now? Like I say, I'm out of touch, guys. I haven't memorized the names of some of the newer cards yet. So let's call him the guy who brings back blitzy poison creatures every round. Also known as one of my favorite cards, whose names I don't know the names of. Whose names I don't know. Whose name I do not know. Blood-Boiled Outlaw. That is a scary card. When war gets some tempo with the Blood-Boiled Outlaw, and it just starts to gain that attack, +1 attack. And now that really made me sad. Take the Reins, I actually didn't even know about that card. And he took my big, awesome creature. That made me really, really sad when that happened. And the little Blitzy, what's his name, Goblin guy. Like I say, I haven't memorized the new guys. So now this is not looking so good. He's got my nice creature and 2 big strong Vikings, one of them with an afterlife. Luckily, I do get my name, I forget, back, and we're able to at least take the board down a little bit. Not too much to play here, except I could potentially play Nefertiti's with a Pip, but I'm looking at Takhat instead and thinking I want to get Takhat out a bit sooner than I want to get Nephthys. Let's go with Nephthys. I think Nephthys is how it's said. Corpse Swallower is a lot of fun. Again, I'm kind of low on cards here. And I have a reasonable amount of health. And I'm thinking I could potentially get at least 2 cards, but probably in exchange for a Corpse Swallower here. It would also potentially take out his larger body on the board if he decides to go that line. And if he doesn't, if he decides to ignore the Corpse Swallower, then Nephthys Guardian, Nephthys Guardian becomes such a great card because then she can frontline and +1/1 the Corpse Swallower, which would be very, very nice. That is assuming that I decide not to use Takhat the Forgotten on the next turn. Now, Red Fume Serum is very unfortunate in terms of just a scary amount of damage on the board. Is he going to go face, or is he going to take out my Corpse Swallower? he decides to go face. And now we just have some huge bodies on the board. We're down 28 to 10, but as I mentioned in the early part of this video, this is a come from behind sort of deck, and you guys will get to see not even the most extreme case of this, but we are now at 7 mana. We do have some big bodies in the void. Do we have some big bodies in the void? Actually, I can't remember if we do or not. Corpse Swallower is now in the void. I think I killed that on purpose so I could specifically bring it back with Nephra, with Takhat. So now we can take advantage of that big amount of blitz and leech and get some healing back, and also get a nice card draw every time enemy dies, of course. Corpse Swallower. I love Corpse Swallower. It just, you guys, when you get a Corpse Swallower on the board, you can draw 2, 3, 4 cards sometimes, you know, in a turn. It's just crazy. You can fill up your hand with it. Now, I actually had to remove some cards, some card draw cards from this deck because I was just getting too much overdraw. So I'm down to just the Corpse Swallowers at the moment, and I find that to be more than enough. That being said, there are some good Anubian what was it? Anubian Guide of Souls is also a really good 6 mana backline that allows you to gain a card every time a friendly Anubian dies. But I find the Corpse Swallower gives you more cards every time an enemy dies. So that is why I favored the Corpse Swallowers. Again, he's got board control with 5/1 creature on the board, 3/3, 1/1. I'm down to 14 health, but I do have a very nice card in hand. I think you guys know what I'm looking at here. Nice way to clear the board. Also, if he kills Neferu at this point, I just get her right back because I'm below 15 health, so not a bad thing. He does still have a distinct health advantage, though. Cyclopean Warrior is a very big card. Very big card to see on the board. Now, some options could potentially include Nephlis Guardian. I believe I took the flanker here in order to protect from basically being flanked around my front line. I figured that was a possibility since I'm not able to immediately clear that Cyclopean defender? Warrior? I forget what the Cyclopean's name is now. Cyclopean Warrior? Yeah. And I didn't want him to grab that Felid tracker and be able to flank around my front line. So that was just a bit of a precaution, probably unnecessary, but better safe than sorry. The Mammoth is always very scary, but again, we do get something back immediately, and it is our nice Poison Blitzy Leecher. Now, do we have any Tomb Reavers in the Void? I can't remember now. I can't remember if we have any 1-mana Tomb Reavers in the Void. Yes, we do. And again, this is why this card becomes so powerful, because that Cyclopean Warrior is now nothing. Just a deadly, deaded creature. Again, we're not too worried about losing Neferu because we can just get her right back and again use her as a board clear. Some possible options. Frontline, probably a good way to go here because we don't have a lot of health, so we need to kind of protect our face. Other possibilities may have included the Malaysian Magistrate on top of our existing frontline resurrecting, what's his name again? Anyway, we will go with the line that we go with. He does get the flank to go around the face, go around the front line rather, to our face. And with as little health as we have here, that is kind of scary. That would put us down to 5. But he opts to take out our deadly creature summoning creature, whose name I should probably learn. Now, Demogorgon is one heck of a nice top deck here. Basically, we can do 1 damage to the Viking Lawn Strip, or, you know, at least 1, so Demogorgon can take it out when he drops on the board. Also, we could God Power away the elephant if we wanted to. We could run Nephilis Guardian into the ship and clear the board that way. We don't even have to use our Demogorgon at the moment. You can see I'm considering it here. I almost misplay that and drop Demogorgon before using my cards, and I would have put them to sleep as well. But I figure at this amount of health, I kind of want to recover some health and maybe stall a turn. Now, at this point, you can see how this deck is going to start to recover very well. We've got Demogorgon on the board. We've got our nice front line that will protect something when she dies. We've got Neferu in hand and enough health to throw her down and board clear again. We've got a Malaysian Magistrate to resurrect creatures. We've got all sorts of good stuff now in hand, and at this point we've got, I would say we've got things under control at this point. He gets some healing with the Auric Blood Mage. Enrage on the Viking Longstrip to remove our Nephilis Guardian, which is necessary in order to get to face, basically, but also kind of advantageous to us should he decide to go that line, which he does not. Now this is, like I say, just such a powerful line. So as soon as Nephilis Guardian dies, she comes right back after giving something frontline and protected. All that for 3 mana, and we get a 3/3 body on board. Blight Bomb deals with one of the concerns. We've got another Blight Bomb in hand should we want it. But we can also just push some face damage here too. Demogorgon survives and gets a nice heal there. And at this point, things are looking very, very good for us indeed. In fact, I do not know how War could possibly answer this situation. Even if he had a Carnage sweep, we would still get Neferu back in hand, we would get something resurrected from our sarcophagus, and we would get immediate resurrection of our Nephilis Guardian, whose name may or may not be Nephilis. The Twin Strike Reindeer will not be enough here. That is actually the worst possible card that protected and +1/+1 could go on. Now it's going to die a little bit less quickly, but at this point we are in such a good situation it hardly matters. We just have so many options at this point, and we really don't even need any because we're pushing so much face damage. He's got nothing to work with. It's you know, it's basically game at this point. But like I say, around that 6-7 mana curve, this deck starts to stack and spiral with such big bodies, blitzy leeching bodies, resurrecting bodies, just some crazy stuff. Dun, 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 dun. This is, well, I think we watched the candle run out here, but this is the end of the game. I won't make you guys watch the whole candle run out. Let's jump on to the next game. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we're into another game here. This time we are up against another death deck. Now this is somewhat of an earlier version, earlier incarnation of my Anubian deck. Less refined. I was still working out some of the kinks, but still fun. Still utilizing the basic later game curve, but with some differing earlier game cards that were perhaps not as effective. We still have the Blight Bomb, which was, again, one of my later optimizations. Adding the Blight Bomb made a lot of difference in helping to not get overwhelmed right at the very beginning of the game. So let's kick things off here. Our opponent, what's going on here? Seems to be frozen. Yeah, there we go. Now we're back. In this version of this game, I have Ragnarok in hand instead of Blood Armor, and I don't think I have Pyramid Wardens at this point either. I think those were a very good addition. Once I added Blood Armor and Pyramid Wardens and made a few early game switches, the early game became less problematic, but it was very problematic with some of the earlier versions that I had that I was working on with this deck. Just it doesn't have a lot of answers in that early. The Triage Necromancer is a fun one. Not quite as good as I would say the oh yeah, and this was a variation which had Apocalypse Now. My later version of this deck does not have Apocalypse Now. I was considering potentially adding one Apocalypse Now back in for extreme emergencies, but whenever you add a card, you have to take away another card, and the synergy is always slightly adjusted, so you can almost overtune something that works. You just have to keep playing. When you're making a deck, if you're creating your own deck, you just have to keep playing with it. You start with an idea and you see how it works, and then you see what card comes up and you're not happy to see, or what card comes up and you're always happy to see, and which ones you never seem to play. And then what I do is I sort of start taking stuff out and putting stuff back in. And it's like, all right, that one came up like the last 5 games, but I never once wanted to play it, or was in a situation where I played it. So I'm like, you know what, that's probably not a very good card in this deck. Or I keep running into this problem where my opponent's too strong early game and I have no counter to that. So what do? I need to design something for that early game. So you just play over and over and over again, or I just play over and over again until something sort of comes together and makes sense. Now Ragnarok here is a bit of a prayer for the desperate. Like I said, Ragnarok works as a great board clear. It'll take everything out. But it also is a little bit slow. He gets to push 9 face damage and theoretically get a bunch of healing if he even needed it. Yeah, so yeah. Triage Necromancer just to put a body on the board. I don't know if I even have any one manas in the void at the moment. I don't think I do, and that is sort of the problem with those 1 mana. There's 2 of them, 2 of them that you can actually use to summon those 1 mana creatures back. But if you don't have 1 mana creatures in your void, well, that is not so helpful. Still a decent sized body though, so worst case scenario, you still got a 5/5 body. That's your worst case scenario. That's not too bad. Transforming into a nether beast is a way to go. It clears it from the board. Also puts a nether into my void, which is not the tribe that I want. It potentially could potentially disrupt some of my later synergies. So we've got one pip, and we could potentially throw down Nephilis Guardian. The other option is no real option at all. So in order to not lose, you know, even more health, now that we're down at 11 health, which is not too good. Bronze Servant is the name of the card in the Sanctum, also the one I was trying to think of earlier, which is also Anubian, 3/3 and mana, not mana, relic removal, which I might want to add one of those to this deck. Maybe swap out one of the owls, just because. Yeah, I've run into situations several times now against zombie death where it's just very difficult to get a handle on things. You're constantly struggling for favor. You're always worried about corpse explosion, and trying to get to that relic removal is very, very difficult. Our opponent at the moment with 30 health, Ray of Disintegration, destroys our Nephilis Guardian, and she doesn't even get to buff anything on the board. Soul Burn, ouch. Zombie, ouch. We're down to 5 health. He's got a Necroceptor and two zombies on the board. I'm looking at Apocalypse now, but it's not quite mana time yet. Nephilis Guardian with that Raised Dead is something we can do, and Vile Reaver also helps to take a little bit off of his board. With this deck in particular, the key is never, ever, ever to count yourself out, no matter how bad things might look, right? And that's starting to look really, really bad. Luckily, this incarnation of this deck did have what you see in hand, and those are 2 Apocalypse Nows, which are kind of crazy. I did remove them from the deck later on because they were not really. I find that it was not really necessary, honestly. The synergy was better without them. But in this particular case, Apocalypse Now absolutely works.
That's enough for now.
Wipes his entire board, but he still has a Necroceptor and 25 health to my 5. So also his hand is extremely full. It's got like 7 or 8 cards in hand, and I've got 3. So it's still kind of a hurting situation. Interesting card that creates a copy of a card as an ability, should it be allowed to live. Which, there we go. Hello, Tuck-Hot. Oh, so good to see you, Tuck-Hot. Tuck-Hot is such a game swinger. Now we've got our Blitzy Leech Anubian, and our sad little 4 health is now starting to show a little bit of recovery, up to 8 health with a nice little front line. A little bit more health still, up to 10. A little bit less scary. He Blight Bombs the Nephilis Guardian, but that does give our Tuck-Hot protected, which makes her a 3/6 with protected even more sort of difficult to deal with now. Now in hand I've got Malaysian Magistrate, which is an interesting option to give Tuck-Hot, just in case she were to die. She would come right back. That Nether Swarm Lord is always one to remove with a zombie deck. It will swing games so quickly, it just has to go. Blood Ritual would clear it. Pyramid Warden, also an interesting way to sort of slow down some of those zombies, and also to help protect our Tuck-Hot, of course. who then will continue to summon blitzy leeching creatures. And now at this point we've got 14 health back from 4. We're down all the way to 4 with a really bad situation. And now we're up to 14, and we've got a very nice board presence. We've got a resurrecting Takhat, we've got a Pyramid Warden, and a decent 3/3 body. We've got our oh no, everything's gone wrong Apocalypse Now card in hand in case everything goes wrong. And a Corpse Swallower is actually very, very nice, especially against zombies, because at the moment our card situation is very low, but Corpse Swallower and zombies could potentially change that extremely quickly. So he has now got 4 bodies on the board, 3 of those are zombies. And there's that synergy misfire. We get that Nether Beast back. And it's not Anubian, so we get no Blitz, Leech. We get no Blitz and Leech, unfortunately. Because that would have been nice. It would have allowed us to get to the Cursed Obelisk, which is what I'm looking at here. I kind of want to get that Cursed Obelisk off the board. Doing a little bit of mathematics. Math is hard sometimes, but blood armor on that Warden is just so nice. And then finally the Athenian Archer and Takhat herself will do the honors and clear the board. No Corpse Swallower this time because I decided to favor clearing out that Cursed Obelisk before it could become possibly a corpse explosion situation. So as much as I would have liked to have more cards, I needed to play it safe there. Blitz Reaver means that we don't have anything very strong on the board because Takhat always brings back the strongest. But it is enough to clear the Guild Enforcer out of the way and push some face damage should we wish to do so. And there's the... You know what, that was actually a bit of a misplay. I probably should have played the Corpse Swallower before I killed the creatures, because then I would have got a bunch of cards. So that was a total misplay. But it doesn't seem to matter, because that is the game. Our opponent concedes. Okay, here we go. Next video. Next game, rather. And we are up against a Deception... something like I forget. There is a current popular Deception meta. Something with I'm not sure what the official name for it is, but we are up against it here. Some deck steal, some card copy, some of the what are the ones that remove your strength down to like -2. Super annoying, super. This, I'm gonna call it, we're up against annoying annoying Deception deck. I forget its official. I don't know its official name, but it is very annoying. That being said, Blight Bomb is a very nice answer for the patient pickpocket. Deny him the opportunity to copy one of our very nice cards, be it Nephilis or Pyramid Warden or whatever the case may be. We don't like sharing our cards. Don't mean to be greedy, it's just not a thing we like to do in this game. Contagious Ghoul is sort of an interesting one. I guess that's one he copied from my domain. Good to get a Blitzy Reaver into the Void for resummoning later should the need arise. And the Pyramid Warden, double Pyramid Warden in hand. But the thing is, I don't really want to play the Pyramid Wardens at the moment because Deception is quite reactive, and he's got nothing on the board to threaten me. And I don't want to just necessarily give him a target straight up to either steal or stone skin poison or do something with. I don't want to give him that target. If I can delay a turn and get me closer to that 6-7 mana curve where this deck starts to shine, I'm totally fine with that. And if I need to, I can throw down some Pyramid Wardens later. And again, same idea here. I just don't want to. I don't want to give him cards back at this point. Dark Knives on the Bomb Boy, whatever his name is, I forget. Blood Armor, which he stole from our domain. I think this was actually before I started using Blood Armor. Maybe that's what gave me the idea to use Blood Armor. I can't remember now. No, I think I just sort of came across it randomly as I scrolled through the deck list trying to decide what's going to help me with that early game, because the early game, and again, this is an earlier iteration of my Anubian deck. Same later game curve, similar later game curve to before, but this time with early game that was just kind of clunky and awkward. We do have the Pyramid Wardens and the Vile Reavers, so it wasn't as clunky and awkward as some of the very first versions of this deck, but it's still kind of clunky and awkward. Lots of later game creatures. Now that is a good way to kill a Pyramid Warden and to build a nice, big, strong, scary looking deck. Wouldn't mind an Apocalypse now, right now, but I think in this case we will have to settle for something like Nephili's Guardian. Nephilus Guardian. Nephilus Guardian. That is super unfortunate to see our Nephilus Guardian taken out by just the most insulting of card methods. Deception, like I say, annoying deception deck. Whatever the official name is, card steal or aggro, hidden rush, whatever it is. I don't know what exactly my opponent's playing here, but I find all deception decks to be very, very annoying to play against. In this case, we're looking at Ragnarok. Now, I misplayed that. I misplayed that badly. I didn't need to throw down my Guardian before I then gave her a burn too. I'm feeling like a bit of a fool, and she even takes 3 burn damage. So he's able to easily take that out. But you know what? Like I say, with this deck, you don't give up. And you just don't give up. You don't give up because it's got some incredible recovery power, even if you are your own worst enemy, playing against what I would consider to be a very tricky god and very tricky deck configuration. These deception decks. That being said, our Ragnarok does have a positive effect of mostly clearing his board, and now we've got the double demos in hand. Now the Demogorgons are an integral part of this deck. They will so often save you around that 7 mana mark. They are you know, they are one of the very most expensive cards because they are one of the very most powerful cards. But yeah, at this point 20 to 5 health is looking a little bit scary. We have a lot of recovery to do. And the Sing Song Satyr, I think, or Satyr Hypnotist is annoying in that he denies us the ability to leech with our Demogorgon and to get some more healing happening, which is something we definitely want. That being said, we have double Demogorgon in hand, but what we don't have is a very good target to leech off of. So I'm kind of considering what to do here. I could possibly Vile Reaver the Hypnotist, double Demo, Double demo. Sure, why not? We'll take out some cards. We'll take some more face damage. But hopefully we'll start getting some healing soon. Hunting Trap does some damage to our Demogorgon. And then, oh, now this is just the worst card in Deception in my opinion. This is the card that every Deception player plays now. It is just so strong, and they do it twice. And then they do other things like use that reduced strength creature to, in this case, kill itself. It's so brutal, that card. And they get a total of 4 of them all together. Minus 8 health for the low cost of, yeah, 3 mana plus 1. Demogorgon could potentially, I think, just go face here, and I'm looking at Neferu, thinking I could possibly clear the board and still have a reasonable amount of health and get her back in hand. That's one line. Could also Blood Ritual something, and maybe Blight Bomb, that's another line. Pyramid Warden potentially. Corpse Swallower. Probably don't want to draw too many cards with Corpse Swallower because I'm getting full on cards. Don't want to overdraw. But Vile Reaver, and then we leave the one alive, which does damage to our to us when it dies. Because why kill that one? We don't need to kill that one. And I'm throwing down a flank here just to be something that he has to really look at and consider how to deal with. Use up, you know, a valuable card, because you can't have a flanking 5/1 that's not dealt with when you're at 17 health. It starts to get really scary. So it does indeed draw out his Stone Skin Poison, which is good. Blood Armor. Blight Bomb works to clear his front line here, and we can push a little bit of face damage. As a matter of fact, what we've got in hand here, and actually what I've still got, and I forgot to mention, is Over the Line. And I think in this case, I wasn't looking at that because I think I might have had lethal. Yeah, I probably should have gone all face. It would have been very, no, it wouldn't have been quite lethal, but Over the Line does indeed do some serious face damage. Even with our Stone Skin Poisoned minion, he gets an attack. The Over the Line in this deck has ended many games, been the finishing move on many games. But there we go, that obnoxious obnoxious card just stealing all of our offensive, basically. Form of Power, however, works well here because we would be able to deal with his minion and then board wipe with Neferu. That's one way to go. The other way to go is frontline Tomb Blade Master, but I think I favor just clearing off the board here. We have 1 mana in hand. So we get 1 bomb in the deck, but our opponent is now at 3 health. So that's not a big deal.
Their plan can't be that obvious.
Neferu gets put to sleep, but we have some very big cards in hand, some good options. Tomb Blade Master goes down. And at this point I would say we have very effectively swung this game. He puts the Tomb Blade Master back in hand, increases its mana cost by 2, so it's effectively useless for a couple more rounds. At this point he makes a big mistake. He should not have damaged Neferu like that. You can see me saying no, that was the wrong move. He shouldn't have done that. I don't think he realized his mistake quite yet, his misplay there. Because, well, I've got a few options here. But basically all I need to do is kill Neferu, bring her back into my hand, throw her down again, and that's the game.
Step aside.
Three health is enough. Okay, in this next game we are going up against a nature deck, a couple of Blight Bombs in hands and a Ragnarok. I don't really mind any of those, especially considering how many creatures nature likes to throw out that have regen. They don't hit too hard oftentimes, but they have regen. That kitty cat is the exception. One of the exceptions to that light hitting regen cards. Blight Bomb is, however, a perfect answer to a kitty cat. We make him spend one of his or her. We make them spend one of their pips. Looking at Ragnarok again, or sorry, Blight Bomb again here, just to keep the board clear. Might have saved that Blight Bomb for something else, but we don't really want to take more early game damage than is necessary. And that is very much because of how little we have for the early game. We do not have a lot of early game answers. Blood Armor. Looks like we had Blood Armor in the deck at this point. Again, slight variations from the final not quite final version, but the most recent version that I showed you guys in the beginning of this video. Over the Line was one card, like I say, that I forgot to mention, but also wins games. I only have one of them in the deck. You don't really need more than one. You just kind of, you get it at some point, it sits in your hand, and you wait to drop it and totally surprise your opponent. I'm pretty sure it goes through front line. It puts your sleeping creatures, it just throws everything at your opponent's face. It's just kind of a crazy card.
At last.
5 mana at this point. I do not have much on the board, and do not have many options to play. Basically, Ragnarok will help to slow things down a little bit, but like I say, it is slow, and we will eat 8 face damage, which definitely hurts. Veil Warden Minotaur also goes on the board. Luckily, the burn creatures will be removed at the end of this turn, and so we won't have to eat quite as much face damage. At this point we have Corpse Swallower, which is at least a body that can deal with Veil Warden Minotaur. Not a lot of other options really, so Corpse Swallower goes down. If we can kill the Veil Warden without it, without dying to it, then we'll also get to draw a card, which would be nice. And that is indeed what we would be able to do, but our opponent just decides to go face. Now at 11 health with 2 big bodies on the board. And the options would be to take out the Veil Warden Minotaur. Our Corpse Swallower will survive that. And we will get to draw a card, which is nice.
That's enough for now.
Nephilus Guardian is actually a very nice card to see here. It gives us a front line. Now the options for him, of course, are to lose his big gorilla, and deal with our Corpse Swallower, or just to continue to push face, but allow some big creatures to be on the board. What is it? What is that one called there? Whenever one of our whenever one of our friendly creatures dies, we draw another card. Anubian. I forget his name now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But nice big body, backline card draw, resource generation, and very nice addition to the deck. I did end up removing him eventually, just because I was getting too much card draw. But and again, actually, that's another one that I did remove as well. Also a very interesting Anubian, the Anputian Magus, which is a backline that draws runes every time a friendly Anubian dies, I believe it is. Still, our situation is kind of scary here. He's got enough damage to do lethal on board, but he has to get around the front line in order to do it. You don't see that card often. Archimonian Hydra. But that's a lot of big scary creatures on the board. And I need to clear up enough of them so that I don't take 6 face damage. I do have Apocalypse Now in hand, and Demogorgon, and Tomb Blade Master. Tomb Blade Master? I think that was the name. One possibility is to give Protected to my Usher, I forget his name. Trying to do the math here. And then use him. Oh no, that's right. I think maybe I was just going for the favor there. I can't remember what am I even thinking here? I don't know. Okay, Demogorgon. Right, so we got a lot of good Demogorgon targets here actually, because they all have at least 3 health, so I get a full heal of 3 from that, which is nice. The Elephant comes down and gives everything a huge buff. Very, very scary. At least it would be if I didn't have Apocalypse Now in hand. There's not a lot that's all that scary when you have an Apocalypse Now in hand. You can basically decide to reset things whenever you need to. Looking for a better possibility here, though. First, I think I decide just to go face. I do not remember what I was thinking here. I do not remember what I mean. What am I even doing? I think I'm starting to panic because, oh, that's right. I was trying to bring everything down so I could toss down Neferu. That's right. Is that what I was doing? Or did I just top card man? I think I just top carded Neferu. Yeah, I was trying to work out a better way to save my creatures without, Apocalypse Now. Trying to do the math there quickly as I could, but wasn't quite working it out in time. Felt the pressure from the candle dropping down, drew a very nice top deck, and things worked out really, really well. Basically is what happened. I didn't have to Apocalypse Now everything, which is good. Sing Song Satyr goes down, but it is not going to be enough to deal with the heavy hitters I have on board. Threatening 13 face damage, and there's over the line. So that is just lethal at this point. You guys can see how powerful over the line is. We overkill our opponent by, yeah, just a lot. And that's that game. Okay. In this next game, we are going up against a light, and I suppose this was actually an earlier iteration of my deck still, where I was trying out the Undead Roach. The thinking was that since I needed more early game low-cost creatures to play, I could possibly soul burn, and there's a little bit of Unreal Engine development going on in the background. I could possibly soul burn and continue to play the Undead Roach over and over again, or so was my thinking. And it kind of works. Kind of works. Should I pip out another roach? Actually, I should not, because they will not keep their frenzy bonus. So that was a misplay. I shouldn't have done that. But I do at least get some bodies on the board, and my opponent decides not to deal with the roaches, which might have been a mistake, because now I can actually just play them again and get them back into my hand again, and then throw them on the board again. So I actually get a lot of value out of these roaches. So that early game pip does end up being a good play, although that is only because I think my opponent made a misplay. That's my opinion. He should have taken out the roaches before they could keep coming back. Or so is my humble opinion on things. Now I can actually frenzy those roaches again and throw them on the board again. Unfortunately, they are not Anubians, but I was testing out some early game variances at this point before deciding that they didn't really work out that well. In this case, they worked out extremely well, but for the most part, they were not working out that well. Eating more face damage up against Light, who is establishing a bigger, scarier board than me at this point. That is not ever something you want to see when it comes to playing against Light, just because once Light establishes a board, the buffs start coming down and things start getting very, very scary. I'm getting one heck of a lot of value out of these roaches, though. I just keep throwing down roaches and roaches and more roaches. This time Pyramid Warden goes down. What is that card? I forget. I don't even know. Like I say, I've been out of touch for a while, and I don't know all of the new cards. They might not even be quote-unquote new anymore. That shows how long it's been for me. Probably a good 6 to 8 months, almost a year, since I was really playing. Maybe 6 to 8 months, something like that. And those roaches, oh, you just can't get enough roaches. More roaches in hand. Throw them down again? Maybe. Maybe this time I'll throw down just one roach and an owl. That's what we'll do. Little bit more firepower on the board. And this is looking kind of scary, but we do have some very good frontline. We also have Apocalypse Now, should we manage to survive that long. The Vile Reaver is good, could help take out one of these warded creatures, of which there are so many. Could throw down a roach here and a Malaysian magistrate to keep my owl on the board. And things are starting to look a bit better. We've got some board presence now, and we have also got an Owly Boy who will resurrect should a unfortunate fate befall him. A little bit of Unreal Engine development in the background. Forgive the interruption.
Now you got my attention. At last.
Earlier on, actually, we were playing around with Ruined Asp and Fanatic for some mana ramp, but decided to remove that later on. They were decent cards, though, early on in the game.
That is not possible. That is not possible.
Decide just to do some value trading here. Do not have enough mana to soul burn and keep that roach, but they have done their job, I would say, by now. Bum, bum, bum. A little bit of Unreal Engine development. And we're back to the game. He decides to... What does he even do? What did he do there? Oh, he took outright the Nephilus Guardian, which gave our Owly Boy a nice protected buff. And puts his... oh no, he does give him some... heals, putting him out of... actually, I don't even have... what's it called now? Blood Pact? Something. To do 1 damage anyway. So it was kind of here nor there. Apocalypse now? Sure, why not? In retrospect, I probably should have killed the 0-2 frontline, I forget his name, to get a little bit of extra favor, but... Actually, no, I guess it would have been the same, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would have been, because Apocalypse now gives favor. So, yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking. I can't remember. Oh, starting to get fatigued here. I think this will be the last game we look at. My narration energy is running low. 4 health is kind of a scary place to be. 2 health is even scarier than 4 health, though, I can tell you what. He steals our really nice Anubian rune generator. Neferu on the board in hand, but not going to be helpful with 2 health. Demogorgon, however, will help by giving us just enough health to survive the Lambasting Wand next turn. So we'll get our heal, get 4 health, and then get 2 of it taken away immediately, which is just really, really cutting it close. Like I say, Demogorgon is such a save. It really is such a crazy card.
The hour is mine.
Fanatic of Kaloum. Now we have to deal with basically everything here. Or rely on a good frontline. The Demogorgon frontline is a nice angle because it gives us a 6 health heal, which now puts us into a much safer range. And the Nephilus Guardian is actually really nice here as well, because double frontline is just really nice. You can't argue with double frontline. We're a little bit less vulnerable to order. That being said, there are a number of ways to get through. He does pull out some pretty heavy moves here, with some big frontline bodies on the board. He trades into the Demogorgon twice and gives me a ton of healing. I don't know if I would have done that, but I guess that's a way to go. Maybe there was no better way. At the moment, Neferu is looking extremely good. deals with both of his 3/3s, and my 5/6 survives.
I took command.
And suddenly, this extremely scary game of being down to 2 health has swung in our favor, and our opponent quits, and that's the game. Alright, gentlemen and ladies, hope you've enjoyed this look at my crazy little Anubian deck. I'll see you guys later.